Hey guys, it's Hannah and I'm here today with a booktuber lingo video. So I'm here today with kind of a different video. I was watching YouTube the other day, of course on Booktube, and I was thinking how we don't really explain what the heck we were talking about. It's kind of a language that you have to learn. So I thought I would give you guys the shorthand of what all of these acronyms and slang words really mean. So I'm going to start off with ones that are strictly booktube related. So things like TBR, which is a pretty easy one to get a handle on. It is the to be read, and so when people make videos that are my March TBR, it is what you are wanting to read in March. Same with wrap-up videos, of course. It's what they have read actually in March, and usually you get ratings along with it as well. Now when publishers and booktubers talk about ARKS, this is Advanced Reader Copy, and this is the release of the book before the actual book release date, if that makes any sense. So it's the rough draft almost of the publisher's book before they put all the final finishing touches on the book and release it out to the public. Also on Booktube, we talk a lot about reading slumps, which I just did a video last week about. I will leave the link down below, and how to get over reading slumps. Reading slump is just an easy term that is also basically you are stuck and can't get into the reading moods and how to get out of it. That's what I made my video about last week. And then also readathons. Readathons are really cool little things I also talked about in a video. They happen on Goodreads, they happen on Twitter, they happen on YouTube. They happen on a bunch of different medias. I'm sure they probably happen on blogs too, because blogs kind of started it all. And they are just something to motivate you. I know sometimes it works for people, sometimes it doesn't. I personally love readathons because I have a competitive nature, so readathons really propel me to read more and push myself to dedicate myself to reading instead of getting sidetracked by, say, YouTube or TV or doing things for the house or my cats. Not saying I neglect my cats, but I'm just saying I put reading on the forefront of my mind, and I do tend to read a lot more once I am keeping track of how much I'm reading. So anyway, readathons are just a reading marathon that you keep track of chapters or books or pages. Depends on which readathon you're in, and they all vary. So yeah, they're really fun. If you haven't ever tried them, check them out because I definitely love readathons. Now I'm going to be talking about different types of books, different formats, and more like the publishing acronyms and things like that. So one of the first things when I started watching Booktube and I didn't know what the heck it meant was, what the heck is the difference between a trade paperback and a mass market book? Especially when you're checking out at like Book Depository, it's got these options and you're like, I have no idea what this is. I didn't either, so I did some research. So what I have come up with after looking at several articles is that trade paperback and mass market are just different levels of quality. So hardcovers are usually the most expensive, then it's trade paperback, and then it's mass market. Trade paperback is usually made with a little bit higher quality of paper, like the acid-free paper, and then mass market is with like a harder binding, and the trade paperback has a softer binding to it. But truth be told, to me, it doesn't really matter that much whether it's trade paperback, mass market. I'm usually a hardcover girl, but I'll take what I can get if I can find it. So there's that. As long as it's in good quality, I'm happy with it. Now that we've cleared up what the difference between a mass market and a trade paperback is, let's jump into the graphic novel comic book controversy that there is, especially on the internet. And people will either be there is a major difference, and there is, I've looked it up, there is a difference, but they can all be categorized as one thing too. So I don't know why there's controversy. To me, it doesn't really matter that much, but this is kind of to help you figure out what the difference is, because I always thought that I was saying it wrong, which I totally was. So there is comic book singles, there's comic strips, there's comics, there's comic books, there is graphic novels, and then there is the trade paperback comic books. So I had no idea that there is this many different things that you could call it, and if any of them were interchangeable or any of them were the same. So this is what I have surmised from my researching that I found. So comic book single issue or comic single issues are literally, let me grab one, are typically what you think of when you grab, or when you think of comic books, this is what you think of, are the single issues. They're really thin, they're about 30 or 40 pages, and they're really, really fast moving, easy to read comic book issues. So what a trade paperback is several of these bind ups, like 4 or 5 issues, and then they bind it all up and they put it into a trade paperback and they sell it to you. So you don't have to buy the single issues. Trade paperbacks are what I prefer because I hate spending like $5 on these when I can just buy a trade paperback for $15, but it does take longer for them to wait. So if you have the patience to wait for those, I would recommend just doing that. But if you don't, you can always pick up the issues after you've read the trade paperbacks. Trade paperbacks are like Saga Volume 1, Volume 2. The volumes like that are the trade paperbacks. So they're the thicker ones and they've got multiple issues packaged together. Now, graphic novel reads like a book. It is one story and it's just drawn up more, but you can go more in depth because you don't have to recap like you do in these because it's all together. You're already reading it all together. These you have to like remind the reader of what's going on. So the graphic novel reads more like a book, and this is, from what I can tell from the internets, this is what people get territorial about, is that graphic novels are more in-depth, they read more like a book. People think, though, that, because technically they're all comics, that they're all comic art style, they're all comics. People think that if people just use graphic novel because they don't want to sound like a child reading comics. Personally, I really don't care. I read what I read and I like it. So that's the difference between graphic novels and trade paperback comics and then comic issues. And then of course you've got the comic strips that were in the newspaper and comic books, which are basically all of them. They're all comic books. Now we also have manga thrown in there. You don't hear too much about this, but manga is quite popular. It is a Japanese style comic book, but it's read from top to bottom and from right to left, and that is just because that's how the Japanese language is read, so that's how it's made for the readers. Now I have 2 more things to talk about. One I didn't know about until I had looked at Let's Read. He made a spreadsheet of keeping track of your reading, and I was scrolling through and I had no idea. I'd never seen this acronym before or really heard it talk about, but it's LFL and it's called Little Free Library, which I think is the coolest thing that I really wish there was like around here. And then, oddly enough, right after I had looked up what it was, I read about a Little Free Library in one of my books that I was reading. So a Little Free Library is basically, at least from in my book, it is a little box and it has books inside that you can either take or leave or trade them out when you are done reading something, but it's all free and they're just placed around, and it's like around the city, and it's basically just works off of goodwill and faith that they're not gonna be just all taken. So I really think this is cool. I really wish these are more possible to have around everywhere, but I get that some places it's more practical to have them than others. And then the last one that I wanted to talk with you guys about is one of my absolute favorite things about reading, and it is Deckled Edges. So I had no idea what Deckled Edges were until Booktube, because I heard people fangirling about Deckled Edges, and I didn't quite get it, so I looked it up. Deckled Edges are actually the edges that are rough cut, so they aren't smoothed out like regular books, which I actually do have some. Hold on. So this is what Deckled Edges actually look like. I don't know if you can even tell. So I don't know if you can really tell, but they are all uncut and they just have a texture to the pages that feels so vintage and luxurious, and it feels like you've ripped them out of your journal and made your own book with it. And I personally really love Deckled Edges, so it's always a bonus when my favorite books have Deckled Edges like this one. So that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know down below if you guys have any weird things that you've been watching YouTube and you're like, what the heck are they talking about? I would love to know other keywords or buzzwords that you don't know and you had to look up, or that you just want me to look up for you, and I will find out some answers and I will talk to you guys down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this isn't one of my regular videos, but I just thought about it while I was watching YouTube and I thought this was a fun video to make. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!